So what is going to happen in the second part? Do you have any idea? What made the giant realize, when the linnet started singing? What is the linnet? What's the linnet? Linnet is a bird, it's a songbird. Yes, and the linnet came and started singing. But the giant realized that, see, what has happened? There is no spring over there in his garden. It is still winter. Open your book. Open your book. When are you going to open it? You can't see book. दूसरी book है ये. Oh, how nice. Show me your books, please. In fact, I was going to put a message yesterday that students were coming from night classes. Please bring your textbooks. Find selfish time from this book. Can you find it? So even I don't have the book which I can share with you all. Okay, right. So please listen to me. Then you have no choice. So let's start with the second part. Should we start now? Yes, I think so. We should. He saw a most wonderful sight. Through a little hole in the wall, the children had crept in. What did the giant see? Children from the window. There was a hole in the wall, sorry, and he saw the children, and they were sitting in the branches of the trees. In every tree he could see there was a little child, and the trees were so glad to have the children back again. Yeah. And of course, the bird came and showed the arrival of the spring, and when the giant looked outside, till then he had been seeing winter all around, but now he was very surprised to see that there are children also. And yes, the trees are also looking very beautiful, right? And the trees were so glad to have the children back again that they had covered themselves with blossoms. They had covered themselves. It seems that they decided to decorate themselves. But it is something very natural. When spring comes, what happens to the trees? New leaves, right? The flowers or the blossoms there, and were waving their arms gently above the children's heads. The birds were flying about and twittering with delight, and the flowers were looking up to the green grass and laughing. So everything was so beautiful. The spring has finally arrived. It was a lovely scene. Only in one corner it was still winter. Where was it still winter? It was the furthest corner of the garden, and in it was standing a little boy. He was so small that he could not reach up to the branches of the tree, and he was wandering all around it, crying bitterly. So one thing that we have noticed, there were so many trees in the garden, and on each one of the trees there was a child. And whichever tree the child was sitting, that tree had blossoms, right? And there was one corner, the tree was there, but it was a small child, and of course, in that corner there was still winter, right? So it seems as if who's bringing the spring? The children. The poor tree was still covered with frost and snow, and the north wind was blowing and roaring above it. So one corner of the garden there was still winter, the wind blowing and very cold over there. Climb up, little boy, said the tree. The tree is speaking. And now it is personification. Understood? Your trees speak, but we made them speak. So when the poet or the writer makes these things speak, what is it called? Personification, right? Yes. And it bent its branches down as low as it could, but the boy was too tiny. And how is the tree trying to help the child? Bending its branches, ready to pick up the child. The child was too tiny, unable to climb up, even at like such a distance. And the giant's heart melted as he looked up. The giant was looking out what is happening in his garden, and he saw that sea, and his heart melted. This shows course, the giant was not heartless, right? When we talk about heart, we talk about feelings and emotions. So the giant was someone with feelings also. How selfish I have been, he said. Now I know why spring would not come. I will put that poor little boy on the top of the tree, and then I will knock down the wall, and my garden shall be the children's playground forever and ever. He was really sorry for what he had. Giant has realized his mistake. Yes, he realized that, yeah, why everywhere there was spring and why there wasn't spring in his garden? Because he had not allowed the children to come inside. So it was not here like so beautifully, isn't it? It's not maybe the change of season, but the children also. So whenever children go and play, what are they taking along with them? They're taking beauty, they're taking happiness, they're taking the beauty of nature also along with them. So we should let children play, isn't it? Right? Otherwise, we'll become what? Selfish giants. Right? So he was really very sorry for what he had done. So he crept downstairs and opened the front door quite softly and went out into the garden. But when the children saw him, they were so frightened that they all ran away. Why did the children run away? Why did they run away? They saw the giant, and why did they run away from the giant? Because the giant was not friendly with the children, right? So he was a very selfish giant. He was a very, you can say, strict kind of a giant. He did not like children. And so they were scared that they did not want to go where the giant was. And the children went, spring went, what came? The children, yeah, they bring us joy and happiness. So you have come, spring has come. Although it's rainy season. Can you see flowers and birds there? Trees happy. Is it? The class is happy because the right occupants are back. It's natural. You know, everything has a place. And when everything falls into place, things they go function smoothly, right? Yes, nature is there teaching us a very important lesson that everything has its rightful place. If gardens are there, it is meant for children to play. Right? So giants should not make the children scared and run away. So the children, they were scared of the giant, they went away. Once again, what happened in the garden? Cold, lifeless, winter, isn't it? Right? Only the little boy did not run. For his eyes were so full of tears that he did not see the giant coming. Was it? He read about exaggeration. You remember exaggeration? Itne tears that he could not see the giant. This is exaggeration, isn't it? Right? Hyperbole also, it's another word for it, right? So the boy was crying so much, did not see the giant coming. Okay, so it's exaggeration. It's a fairy tale, and when we read about fairy tales, everything is so fictitious and so exaggerated. But we love reading fairy tales. Why? We say no. It's an escape, you know, like you want to see that, okay, yeah, world can be nice and good, right? So it is good to read fairy tales, but of course, it is not always good to believe in fairy tales. Read them, but live in the reality. So the poor boy was crying. He did not see the giant coming because he was full of tears, a bucket full of tears he had, isn't it? Exaggeration, right? And the giant stole up behind him and took him gently in his hand and put him up into the tree. And the poor boy, because he was crying, he didn't notice that the giant had come and picked him up. Otherwise, he would have screamed even more, seeing the giant, isn't it? But he came, picked up the little boy, put him on the tree. And the tree broke at once into blossom. And the birds came and sang on it. And the little boy stretched out his two arms and flung them around the giant's neck and kissed him. Oh my God. So he was so happy that the giant put him on the tree, right? He's so happy that he's back in the garden. And he forgot that I'm scared of the giant. So of course, he just hugged him and kissed him in his way of saying thank you. And then and the other children, when they saw that the giant was not wicked any longer. Wicked any longer. Can a person look wicked? How can a person look wicked? How can a person be kind? Yes? From the behavior. But the giant was, what was he doing at that time? So expressions, okay, right? Yes? When he helped the children, when they saw his behavior, that he is kind towards the children, he's caring about the children, he's friendly towards them, so they were not afraid of him anymore. So, right? Yes, and he was not wicked any longer. They came running back, and with them came the spring. So they all went back into the garden, and spring also came back with them. You're standing or sitting? Sitting? It is your garden now, little children, said the giant, and he took a great axe and knocked down the wall. With an axe. Was a very powerful giant. He knocked down walls with an axe. Will he want to break wall? Hammer? Yeah, or a bigger tool there. What do we use an axe for? Cutting trees. Yes, for felling the trees. He took an axe and knocked down the wall, and when the people were going to market at 12 o'clock, fixed time, 12 o'clock, let's go to the market. Is it? No. Right, of course, because it's a beautiful story. That is why they found the giant playing with the children in the most beautiful garden they had ever seen. So in that place, right, when the people they went to the market at 12 o'clock, they noticed this beautiful garden and they saw the giant playing over there. So everyone has come to know that the giant has changed and this garden has become beautiful once again. All day long they played, and in the evening they came to the giant to bid him goodbye. But where is your little companion? He said, the boy I put into the tree. The giant loved him the best because he had kissed him. So where's the little boy? We don't know, answered the children. He has gone away. You must tell him to be sure and come tomorrow, said the giant. But the children said that they did not know where he lived and had never seen him before. And the giant felt very sad. So maybe, of course, they're not aware about him. They're not good friends with him. So every afternoon when school was over, the children came and played with the giant. But the little boy whom the giant loved was never seen again. The giant was very kind to all the children, yet he longed for his little friend. Longed means he was waiting, he wanted to meet his little friend and often spoke of him. How I would like to see him, he used to say. Years went by and the giant grew very old and feeble. Feeble means weak with old age, right? Look at the giant now. How is he looking? Old. With his hair all right. So he's looking quite old there, sitting in his armchair. He could not play about anymore. So he sat in a huge armchair and watched the children at the games and admired his garden. So what did the giant do the whole day? Yes, looking at the children, right? Watching them play. I have many beautiful flowers, he said. But the children are the most beautiful flowers of all. Oh my God. What a wonderful thought, right? And of course, the giant thinks that my garden is beautiful because the children are there. And because the children are there, that is why nature has come, right? Make this garden even more beautiful. One winter morning, he looked out of his window as he was dressing. He did not hate the winter now. For he knew that it was merely the spring asleep and that the flowers were resting. And he was not afraid that the winter is not going to be long. The winter will end because spring will surely come, right? So he did not hate the winter. Suddenly, he rubbed his eyes in wonder and looked and looked. It certainly was a marvelous sight. In the furthest corner of the garden was a tree covered with lovely white blossoms. Its branches were golden and silver fruit hung down from them. And underneath it stood the little boy he had loved. The boy has come back. Downstairs ran the giant in great joy and out into the garden. He hastened to cross the grass and came near to the child. And when he came quite close to, his face grew red with anger, and he said, "Who hath dared to wound thee? Who had dared to wound you?" Thee is you. Who had? Who had? Right? For on the palms of the child's hands were the prints of two nails. And the prints of two nails were on the little feet. Someone had tried to hurt, or someone had hurt the child. So there was a print of the nails on his hands and on his feet. Who hath dared to wound me? Cried the giant. Tell me that I might take my big sword and slay him. Slay, kill him. Nay, answered the child, but these are the wounds of love. No, this is not, someone has not tried to hurt me, but these are the wounds of love. Who art thou? Who are you? Who art thou? In simple English, it means, who are you? Said the giant. And a strange awe fell on him, and he knelt before the little child. And the child smiled on the giant and said to me, "You let me play once in your garden. Today you shall come with me to my garden, which is paradise." And when the children ran in that afternoon, they found the giant lying dead under the tree, all covered with white blossoms. Surprise ending? Yes? Did you expect this ending? So the little boy has come back, and who do you think was the little boy? Who do you think was the little boy? Yes, a person sent by God. Who do we call a person sent by God? Messenger of God. What we call it? Yes, it would be that the young little boy was an angel, and he's come there. He said that, "See, you allowed me to play in your garden, and now I'm going to take you to paradise, right? Heaven, which is said to be the most beautiful garden." And when the children came, they saw the giant was dead or there, and it was covered with the white blossoms. And was a beautiful tree ever seen before? Was a tree seen before? The one with the silver fruits and the golden branches, and it was never seen before. All of a sudden it appeared, and the little boy also came. So it was, yes, because the giant was no longer selfish, a kind person, very caring and concerned, and loved to play with the children. And now I think that God has rewarded the giant, right? And he's been forgiven for all the anger and all you can say the things that he did to hurt. Okay, so yes, it could be an angel who has come to take the giant, right? So the child had marks of nails on his hands and on his feet. Does it remind you of anything? Yeah, correct. Correct. It would be Jesus Christ. So when we look at on the cross, so we see the crucified, right? We see the nails there. So, like, of course, it could be as if an angel has come, as the God has come to reward him, and you're so good and you're so nice, and now you're going with me to heaven. It could be, right? So that is it's maybe a reference to that. Is it because yes, the marks are there saying that they're not, I'm not wounded. It is a love over here, and because of those wounds, because I have sacrificed my life, and how much love I have got from the people, right? Yes, so right. So when we talk about Christianity, and we remember the sacrifices of Jesus Christ, what do you think about this story? What about this story? Yes, nice story, touching story. Started a very nice in the beginning, and What about the ending? What happened to the ending? It's a sad ending. Do we like sad endings? No, we don't like sad endings, but sad endings are a part of life, isn't it? Right? But here, this sad ending, how do you think it is important? How is it important, the sad ending? The giant there going to heaven. How is it important? Yes? How is a sad ending important? Showing that goodness in any form it is rewarded. When you're good and you're kind, you are going to get that recognition, right? So it is like, of course, when you read about Oscar Wilde, he has a lot of surprise endings in his stories, and his stories are very, very, yeah. But of course, yes, absolutely correct. We wished the giant had met the child. So he died with that desire, with that longing, and he saw that child, but of course, it was maybe the last moment of his life. But we did see the child, right? Okay. Yes. What is the next step? After reading the chapter, can you call it a fairy tale? You call it a fairy tale? Yes, because we have a giant and we have nature coming and bringing all the trees bending down, picking up the children. We have all these beautiful things which are there, right? So it is definitely a fairy tale, right? Yes. Do we like the giant? When do we start liking the giant? In the second part. Yes, when he is good with the children, right? When he allows them to play in his garden, when he realizes that I have been very selfish. So we will start liking the giant also. What about nature? How can nature make things look so happy? And how can nature make things look so sad? How can nature make things look so happy? How do we feel when it has been very cold and foggy for a couple of days? How do we start feeling? We dance around with happiness. No? We feel upset, we feel bored, we feel low, or we feel happy. Oh my God, I can get to sleep. I'm going to break my own record. Is it? Yeah? Okay. So when, like, of course, and when of course, you see, yes, it's a clear blue sky and there's a nice breeze, and you see the, like, the butterflies, the flowers, and all, it makes you happy. So nature there, it seems, yeah, when nature is happy, when nature is there in its beauty, we also feel happy, right? If nature gives us so much happiness, then why are we bent on destroying nature? Why are we doing it? We're going to turn into selfish giants. We're going to have a long, long winter then. It will happen if we keep on hurting. We have to be very careful about what we do. Okay, coming to the questions. So those of you have the book, look and yes, and let's just do the questions. The giant saw a most wonderful sight. What did he see? What was the beautiful sight the giant saw? Yes, he saw from the hole in the wall that there are children on each tree. The children were sitting, and the child was sitting, and it had blossomed, and there was so much of beauty in his garden. Okay, right. What did he realize on seeing it? That he had been selfish, and why winter had not come to his, winter did not leave his garden, or spring did not come to his garden, because the children had brought that happiness. He had kept that happiness away by making the children go away. Why was it still winter in one corner of the garden? Kashish, note down the attendance now. Please note down the attendance. This is the right time to take the attendance when children are disappearing. We don't want to do question answers. Why was it still winter? Because little boy could not climb on the tree. And who had the little boy? giant. And of course, what happened to the tree? Then there were flowers and blossoms, right? And so spring also came in that corner also. Describe the first meeting of the little boy and the giant. That was the first meeting. He picked up the little boy, put him on the branch of the tree, and the little boy was so happy that he hugged the giant and kissed him, and the giant was so happy. Right? Yes? And what is the second meeting? When is the second meeting? Yes, so the second meeting was when he saw the little boy and he was so happy to see the boy under that very beautiful tree, right? And with white blossoms and the silver fruit and the golden branches, and when he went to the boy, his water to the palms and the feet, the nail marks, right? And of course, the little boy was not angry or hurt at all. And then what happened was that he said that I've come to take you to my garden. You now to stay in your garden. Now I'm come to take you out. And of course, the giant he died and he was lying under that beautiful tree. Now the giant lay dead, all covered with white blossoms. What does this sentence indicate about the one selfish? The earlier nature was happy coming to his garden. No. And in the end, what did nature do? What did those blossoms on the tree? It covered the giant. Right? They showed that yes, they're happy with the giant. Earlier, see that the nature was angry. Spring was angry, not coming to the garden. But now it seems as yes, spring has forgiven the once selfish giant. Okay? Yes, sir. Taken to his
garden. The child had taken and time to the garden.
So he is in his garden with all the flowers.
No, the child had taken.
So he's come there in the second meeting. That is what he said, no? That I've come to take you to paradise, to my garden. And then in the end, what they say is, it seems as if spring is no longer angry and spring has forgiven the once selfish child, because he has shown that I have become a better person. Okay, right? So you can write this. Is there something like this garden near where you live? Is there any garden nearby? Any park nearby where you like to go and play? What?
Rose garden.
Rose garden. Okay. Would you like one garden in your house? People play? Good. Yes, we would love to. And how do you take care of that garden? How do you take care of that garden?